The Princess Bride Adventure Book Game. This is a game based obviously on the beloved movie, and it is based on a very interesting idea, on the idea of storytelling. It is incredibly loyal to the story, in that you're not Buttercup or Wesley, you are basically Peter Falk. Your job in the game is to tell the story to a kid that is easily bored. So you have to keep it moving, you have to keep it snappy. If you take too long to complete the tasks that allow you to complete the story, then you lose the game. The game is cooperative. It can also be played solitaire, although the rulebook doesn't exactly explain how to do so, but that's the way I played it. And I handle 2 notional players. Each player has a hand of cards. An action that players can perform is to trade cards, so you definitely want to have multiple players, even if you are those multiple players. Again, adventure book game, because the board or boards of the game come in the shape of a board book, like those that you read to your kids. And when you open it, you'll have a play area with unique rules for that section, with unique goals that you need to complete. Every time you complete one of the goals, you will place a token on it to indicate that you completed it. Usually you also get a reward. And when you complete all the challenges of a chapter, then you're allowed to move on to the next one, and so on and so forth. Your job is to go through all 6 chapters to complete the story. And just be sure, have fun storming the castle, because if you're not having fun, what's the point of storming a castle to start with? So each scenario, each chapter has different goals, so I'm not gonna go through all the details of that. I'm gonna tell you about the main mechanics. That is, you have these pretty nice plastic miniatures representing the iconic characters of the game, from the giant to our Wesley, and so on and so forth. And these characters will not all be available in every scenario, of course, because this game is very true to the story. And so, for example, in the first scenario, which is called As You Wish, you have Buttercup and Wesley only. You also have tokens representing different chores that Wesley has to do as he goes around saying as you wish and hoping that Buttercup notices what that actually means. In this scenario, so for example, the challenges they're trying to complete is, just to give you a sense, requires there are 2 fewer chore counters on the board, and Wesley and Buttercup are on the same space, doing their muchas thing. I know, kissing. Ugh. Another challenge, Wesley and Buttercup must be in the barn, even more romantic, and you get a reward. Also, you need to discard the sets of cards indicated there to complete a challenge. So to complete that challenge, we need to perform that. We need to fulfill that requirement. Wesley and Buttercup are in the barn, and we also discard 2 love cards and a courage card, as indicated there. 2 love and a courage. More kissing. What's going on here? Finally, Buttercup must be in the barn, and Wesley to fortune space. Then we complete that one, and we go to the next space, in which, so sad, to complete one of the challenges, we need to actually throw poor Buttercup to the eels, and then Fezzik shows up to pick her up. That just sounds mean. Aren't storytellers mean? Because we want to put the characters in annoying, dangerous, uncomfortable situations so the story can be cool. Interesting considerations here. The general idea is this. When it is your turn, you can move a character by up to 2 spaces, but you can also move them by 0, or 2 characters up to a space each. Muchas. There you go. After you have the move phase of your turn, you have the storytelling, which you have. It's a very flexible phase. You can do different things in any order, as long as pretty much you can pay for the resources. You can discard any number of cards. Again, these cards, as you can see, they're simply labeled with different traits: love, intrigue, adventure, courage, and so on and so forth, revenge. During the storytelling phase, which is the main phase of the turn, you can discard a number of cards and move a character 1 extra space for each card you discarded. You can complete a challenge again by fulfilling the conditions and discarding the corresponding cards. You can trade a single card with any other player. You can, if you collected a miracle token, it's a reward that you find on the game, collect the miracle tokens, then you can draw 3 cards from the deck or a card from the special deck. So this is the regular deck that you use to fulfill these challenges, but then you have a special deck with cards that are more powerful and give you different abilities, and that you can collect as rewards when the text tells you so, and or again by spending a miracle token. There's a very valuable card because it can be used to replace any card of this kind to fulfill one of these requirements, but other abilities also. For example, do not draw a pluck card this turn. What the heck is a pluck card? Is the bad stuff. Is when the pandemic happens at the end of a turn as diseases multiply and spread and so on and so forth. Here, the bad stuff that the game does to you, so you have some challenge, change from scenario to scenario because the situation is so different. So basically, each chapter has its own unique plot table that you see here. And the plot table has simply different ranges of possible events. After you're done with your storytelling, performing the actions that I mentioned, during the plot phase, you will draw a card from the plot deck. And depending on the number that you draw, you will resolve an effect tailored to that situation. So the card number 9 is the same in each chapter, but it does different things depending on the scenario. Here, for example, the 2 things that can happen is that Buttercup gives Wesley more chores, and so you place a chore counter on the whatchamacallit, on the board, or you move Buttercup to Wesley's space, and then you draw and resolve another plot card. And just to give you an example of what can happen, so different chapters. This is chapter 2. Our crew in this section of the story, I'm taking for granted you know the story, they start moving around and they run around like crazy, which is a problem because to complete the challenges you need to place them in specific locations. Also, you're gonna have a token representing the mystery ship and your own ship, and you don't want the mystery ship to catch up to you because otherwise the story is not interesting. The story is not interesting. So actually, some of the actions you need to perform will require you to again move your characters all around the ship, and then move also your ship on this other thing, on this other track until you reach the cliffs of insanity, and the game, as a negative effect, may move the mystery ship with the danger that they catch you. Cliff of Insanity, I think you get the sense by now of how the game works. So again, there will be unique rules based on each scenario, but the general idea remains that each turn you will move 1 or 2 characters for free, so to speak, then perform actions in any order to get extra moves, complete challenges, trade cards, acquire new cards, acquire tokens, etc., etc. You draw 2 cards from the regular deck at the end of your turn because you need to refill them. You draw a plot card to see what happens, and then you continue like this, turn after turn. If you fail to complete a challenge, that's okay. If you fail to complete a scenario, that's okay. It's like when you fail a video game and you go to the next save. You get to retry that same scenario. If you fail this scenario a second time, then you lose the game. If you're able to complete all 6 chapters from 1 to 6 in that exact order, without failing too much, then you told the entire story to the kid and everybody's happy and you win the game. Princess Bride Adventure book game. I love the miniatures. I love the book, the way of multiple boards connected together as a book. We've seen it in other games such as Stuffed Fables and Commandants. And here it is connected to a beloved movie. I love the movie. I know there's also a book, but I haven't read the book, so to me, the movie. It's a movie that I like very much. I showed it to my daughters recently. So the theme is very fun, and I like actually really the novel approach to the fact that you are not a character, but you are the storyteller. There are a couple of interesting, strange things that happen because of this. Again, I feel bad throwing Buttercup in the water, but wouldn't I do it if I was a novelist and I was writing that scene and that scene is good? So you gotta do mean things because you're a storyteller. That feels very original. What comes across most strongly in the game, of course, is its really intense commitment to the theme. Basically, this game to me is barely a game. It has rules, it has victory conditions, but it really feels like a storytelling activity, a set for you to experience the story in a way in which you're gonna move characters around and you're gonna make decisions about how you get there. But you don't really get any decisions about what happens because the story has been scripted before the beginning of the game and there is no escaping. In a sense, to me, this game has pluses and minuses, and they both come from the same idea, which is from its unusually intense commitment to the theme, loyalty to the theme. It is the strongest thing in this game. It is, to me, also the source of some weaknesses. The strongest thing is like it's the freaking story. The story is there. If you watch the movie, you enjoy the movie, the definitely is fun. It's fun to see the situation, to see the miniatures, dance that dance, take those steps that you already know. Precisely like rewatching the movie is watching the movie again. You have that direct connection through touch, through these components. There is fun. Trading cards, I assume, if you play with the humans. When I play Pandemic and other games where we trade cards to form set, that is fun. So I don't see why it would be different here. Although I was trading cards with the multiple incarnations of myself as I played the game Solitaire. You are re-experiencing the game, the story through the game. It is really a set to reenact the story. If you love the story, that's great. The weaknesses come from all of the ways in which this limits gameplay. Gameplay is extremely railroad, is extremely limited. You have to perform those actions. Say in the first scenario, at least you can perform the first two in different order. Cliffs of Insanity is the one, probably is the most railroaded of them all because you have to perform all the actions exactly in the same way, because Wesley needs to reach the top of the cliffs first, and then defeat one, and then defeat the other, and then you have another challenge, and you have a time limit because Humperdinck is coming around. But basically, you have 6 micro games that you have to play in order from 1 to 6. Within those, then you have mini micro games. Let's collect those 2 cards and place those 2 characters there, which again usually you have to perform in a almost inescapable order. Some scenarios you can do in different order, but not much. You have to do those things. You don't have a lot of time. You don't have a lot of strategy in the sense here, I mean in terms of long-term strategizing, because right now we have these hand of cards and we need to do this one mini thing. Let's do it. Now we need to do the other thing and we do it. So it's extremely limited gameplay. The next decision, the next good thing to do is really obvious because we need 2 red cards and a green one and these 2 people need to get there. That's all that there is. So what is the best decision? Move them toward where they need to be. What is the next the best decision about the cards? Get the darn set. So extremely obvious gameplay. And of course, very limited replay value. Once you go through the entire story, which you already know, wow, so great to relive the story, then all you can do is to relive the same story again. There isn't optimization, there isn't any proper gameplay based reason to replay the game. If you replay the game, it's because you want to experience the theme again by moving little plastic miniatures around. And so very little replay value. The game can take a while to play, can drag a little bit. By the end you may be like, I don't know, storm this castle already. But the other thing is that that's a minor thing because you can take breaks. So you can put the game away and then start from chapter 4. To me, the biggest problem is very limited replay value and very limited gameplay value, really, because you are performing action almost as on cue. The game dictates what you need to do next. The beauty is the game will play out exactly like the movie. The problem is the game will play out exactly like the movie. And as I announced, the biggest problem and the biggest advantage in this game is exactly stemming from the same source. The Princess Bride Adventure book game. It's a game, to me, is not that great. I didn't enjoy it all that much. I enjoyed it as a storytelling activity, but not one that I would experience all that often because I want to play it again because isn't because I want to enjoy the story again. So if I watch the movie 5 times in a row and I still want the movie, but I don't feel like watching the sixth time, then I play the game, then I watch the movie 5 more times. I see it as a game that you play once or twice, almost as a novelty, and then maybe when you watch the movie that evening, you also play the game. But I don't think it's a game that, as a game, has a lot of staying power. Again, it's a fun activity for fans of the movie. If for some reason you don't enjoy the movie, then steer clear from this one because there's absolutely nothing in here that I believe can hold your interest. So the Princess Bride Adventure book game, an ambitious experiment in storytelling, but a pretty mediocre, pretty faulty game as a game.